Men of Reddit who had sisters. What were some of the things you saw them do while dating that taught you a lesson about dating? Lesson from Sister 1. Have at least one relationship so you don't have to fall into arranged marriage. Lesson from Sister 2. Have relationship only with a person who commits for long term so you don't have to fall into arranged marriage. My status: finding just one relationship with long term commitment from last 28 years and seeing myself falling into arranged marriage. Edit, typo. My sister and her boyfriend would get into violent fights constantly. We beat her boyfriend up the first couple of times. He even went to jail once. And she just kept going back to him. It got to the point where we were in danger of putting ourselves in jail because my sister would flip the script to protect her boyfriend. Finally, everyone in the family verbally agreed that if my sister got beat up again that it was at her own fault and we would no longer intervene. Don't have any sisters but had some pretty close cousins growing up. 1. Some women are beyond help when it comes to staying in abusive relationships. Thank fuck that her ex decided to drive home drunk alone and killed himself wrapping his car around a pole. Probably the best thing he ever did in life. 2. Women can be just as cruel as men. One of them began cheating on her BF after he was diagnosed with cancer. Have a sister who would mock men behind their backs for physical characteristics, short, hair length, etc. I tried to explain to her that doesn't matter and I'm proof. 5 feet 5 inches guy who paid for her college and numerous fuck-ups. I haven't spoken to her in years now. I'm out of the whole dating thing now. Happily single with my dog. But it taught me that there are always two sides to people. There's the one they present. And the one they try to hide. Is it true that in North America, your middle name is not necessarily your father's first name? Not everywhere in Middle East is like that either. I'm from Middle East and we don't have middle names at all. First name and last name only. Both parents' names are mentioned in both certificate. Father's name is mostly asked when it comes to identification, which is a patriarchy thing. I heard that Iceland does this and I wonder if trans Icelanders change their last names. Like Simon Eriksson is now known as Simone Eriksdotter. And what about non-binary Icelanders? Do they have a gender-neutral Erikskid version? Anywho, here in America, middle names are used as a tool to prevent divorce when parents can't decide on a single name and also to distinguish yourself from all the other plebes with similarly unimaginative parents. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. My middle name is a relative dear to my dad. Our last names are also drawn all the way back to particular families that we can trace back to who would get their names from jobs they did. That is of course if you are descendants of European families. No. In North America this is usually not the case. Middle names are sometimes used to name someone after someone else and they can also be family names, e.g. old last name that died out, but they are not strictly the father's first name. Of course, some people do that but more often middle names are just another name the parents liked or have a different meaning to the parents. You don't have to look in America. I'm sure in most, if not all, Europe it's not a thing either. I know it's a thing in India. I haven't heard of it in any other context. Here it's pretty common to give middle names of some relatives. My middle name is 100% random. My mom just thought it will sound funny with my first name plus it's a name from her favorite movie. And it's not weird. Middle names are random here. What popular tourist attraction is not on your bucket list? Vegas. I have zero interest. I even found the airport obnoxious when I stopped on a layover. I slow have no desire to see the Mona Lisa. Although I would like to return to the Louvre. The reason is because everything I've heard about the Mona Lisa makes it seem like you really can't see much because everyone suddenly acts like paparazzi when get near it. You can get a better perspective just looking at a print. I always did want to visit Mexico but after stumbling upon a few cartel threads on here that's no longer the case. I'm in New Zealand and up until I read about some of the horrific things they have done, I always thought of them as nothing more than armed drug dealers. How wrong I was about that. A lot of links that warned with NSFL but like a nosy neighbor I just had to have a peek and my god how I regret that. One link was more than enough. If you go to Marrakesh don't go the Yves Saint Laurent garden. It's the biggest waste of $6 I've ever experienced. The garden itself is very nice but Therese so many Instagram influencers there it's damn near impossible to walk. If you accidentally walk in their shot they will scream at you. They climb over everything like goddamn children and I feel bad for the staff who have to try and kindly ask them to not step on plants and shit. Also the gift shop everything is insanely priced. Not just usual gift shop prices. Like what kinda hash are you smoking prices? Alcatraz and anything Disney. I grew up in the Bay Area and never once went to Alcatraz. Of all the things to enjoy in the area, an old gross prison on a rock full of dismal history was the least appealing. As for Disneyland, playing outdoors on trails, rivers, and beaches was way more fun to me as a kid than a manufactured fantasy that my dad was stressed about being able to afford. I appreciated his effort though. How do you make sure you are safe as a single woman who hires contractors to work on their home? There's actually a lot of companies out there that have a completely female team. For that exact purpose, single women can hire anyone from their team and feel safer and more comfortable with them in their house. Cameras potentially? Or invite a friend over? I've never had any dangerous situations with workers but have been in situations where they'd try flirt or like give me their personal number or ask me out for a drink or dinner. Get recommendations from people you trust. I also always let somebody else I trust know when there will be a service worker or contractor in the home. Text the person when they arrive. And check in periodically until they leave. Research the contractor before hiring them. Make sure they are reputable. At the end of the day, they have a job to do and a reputation to uphold. With social media these days, you can find out and get recommendations from people who have used services before. When I have to be alone when contractors come, I make sure my GSD is in her crate in the kitchen. She is the biggest sweetheart but has a scary bark. When they ask about her, I causally mention that she's not friendly. I've never been worried about it. I'm used to being around guys in those fields. I'll usually check on them a couple times and see if they need anything. Chat for a little bit. Usually I'll just catch them checking me out or something. Sometimes they get real flirty. But I'm used to it, so NBD. Never had serious issues. I do say I have a BF if the question arises. Then why isn't he here ? And quat. He's abroad and quat. That's it. Saves me the trouble of them hitting on me and trying to politely refuse. Most have the tact to only ask you after the job is done. But some really haven't been blessed with brains. Hence the pre-ready BF story.